So this is really going to the heart of the issue, isn't it? We are going from anxiety about flying and anxiety about the oven being left on to one day I'm going to die. You can see where we're jumping to. Yes, death does confront us all. And again, can we confront death? That's the question. And the real question, I suppose, is what are the benefits to us, to our lives, if we can? Okay, so there is a great scene in a film that's about, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 years old, okay? And it really kind of exemplifies a lot of what we're talking about here. It was the film Moonstruck. And those of you who are older will know the film that I'm talking about probably. But we're not concerned with the main characters in the film, we're concerned with some of the sideline characters, because there's a very interesting plot that goes on the side. And in it, there is this Italian woman. She's a wife and she's older. Maybe her and her husband are probably, I would say maybe 65, maybe 70, maybe approaching 70. And in this film, this woman senses intuitively that her husband is having an affair. Okay, this is awful, right? And it's really, really troubling her, and she's carrying this around quite heavily. She's kind of ruminating, if you want. And throughout the film, they kind of show her randomly approaching kind of strangers she is meeting, and she's asking them, she's really trying to figure this out. And she says to him, why do men have affairs, you know? And they're all giving her different answers. They're saying this or that, or, you know, maybe it's this, and none of it's just quite landing, you know? So she keeps asking. She's going around asking strangers. And then she finally comes to this one man, and he's kind of a comical figure in the film. And she asks him, you know, this guy is actually just fresh from his mother's deathbed. And she says to him, tell me this, why do men have affairs? And he looks at her and he pauses for a moment, and he looks up and he says, I don't know, you know, maybe it's because they fear death. She sits back and she says, that's it. That's it. And he goes, I don't know. And she said, no, that's it. That's it. So now she is kind of armed with this epiphany. She has the truth. This is why men have affairs. It's because they fear death. And she knows. Okay. They flash forward then into a later scene. And she is in the kitchen with her husband. And it's tense. You can kind of feel tension. And we are expecting that at this point she is going to confront her husband about the fact that he's having an affair. We're waiting for it. And they're sitting at the table, and she says, I want to talk to you about something. And he says, okay. And they sit down. She says, I just want to tell you, you're going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. He kind of sits there, and he looks at her, and he's, you know, bewildered. And he looks sideways at her and he kind of says, okay. You know, he doesn't know how to take this, all right? So she lands him with that. Okay, so this is very interesting, isn't it? Now, I'm not speaking about marriage. I'm not speaking about communication. I'm not speaking about affairs here. There's plenty more we could talk about there. That's not really what we're trying to get at here. It's not an anecdote about that. This is actually about the fact that underneath a lot of our more neurotic tendencies, our more neurotic worries, our avoidance behaviors, is actually our fear of death. This is what she says to him. I just want you to know you're going to die and there's nothing you can do about it. Now we'll come back to that in a minute, but really what this is kind of a very playful way of showing us death anxiety at work. Now, with the existential psychotherapists, never mind probably timeless and ageless religions all over the world, feel happens when we confront death in this way directly, literally or symbolically, is two things. Firstly, we contemplate all the things that we worry about, that we give our time to, that we fight about, and we see that most of this really doesn't matter, okay? When contemplating our own mortality, the perspective changes. So Have you ever had the experience of perhaps something like running around frantically late for something, and then maybe you've lost your car keys or something, and you're furious and you're kind of stomping around because your day is being derailed, you know? You're an important person, you have important things to do, meetings and goals and tasks. And so you finally kind of get in the car, and then you're finally off and you're driving to work. You're still kind of ruminating over the fact that losing the keys, it's an insult, a personal insult to you almost. And then as you're driving on, perhaps you encounter a really bad accident on the road. And you see this, you see the ambulances and the squad cars and the stricken faces, and it's horrific, okay, the whole awful lot. Someone may be dead, you don't know. Hopefully what happens in a moment like this, hopefully, is you're feeling pretty silly, aren't you? You're feeling pretty silly for what you were worried about. You're pretty kind of feeling almost foolish for the cosmic insult of having lost your keys, Now, really, in this very far removed and brief encounter with death, what you encounter is your own neurosis. Your own neurosis. You realize, I'm a bit neurotic. Look what I'm giving my attention to. Look what I'm giving my energy to. What's the point here? We give a lot of energy and effort to things that don't matter. We all do it. Right now, in this very moment, you are worrying and giving your time to things that don't matter, as am I. That's what we do. This is also a part of being human, part of our nature. But what happens when we don't wait for these kind of existential realities to confront us, when we confront them first? What's the opportunity in that? Well, we gain that perspective that we're looking for. And this allows us to make better choices, meaningful choices, to live and to love well in accordance with our values. That's what the existentialists think.